All right. So we're going to be diving into a topic that's really trendy right now, but also a little bit tricky.
Okay.
Manifestation.
Oh, yeah.
You know that whole idea about like focusing your energy on what you want and then like willing it into existence?
Mm-hmm.
It's everywhere these days.
It is.
But it also begs a pretty big question.
Yeah.
Is it inherently selfish?
That's an interesting question because I think the concept of manifestation in itself,
Okay.
it's not inherently good or bad.
Right.
It's more like a tool,
Yeah.
you know?
I like that.
It's the way you use it and like the why behind it
Yeah.
that determines the ethical implications.
Totally. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack today.
Okay.
We've got a great source to guide us.
Right.
A podcast called Quantum Soul Studio.
Okay.
And it's geared toward folks who are interested in like personal growth and spirituality.
Yeah.
They really get into the nitty-gritty of what people are actually talking about
Okay.
when they say manifestation.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think what's so fascinating about this particular podcast is that they don't shy away from kind of the potentially uncomfortable side of manifestation.
Yeah.
They bring up this whole idea of cosmic capitalism,
Okay.
which I think really gets to the heart of the ethical dilemma.
Okay. I love that.
Yeah.
So break that down for me. Cosmic capitalism, what does that mean?
Okay, so think of it this way.
Okay.
If the universe is like this giant marketplace,
Okay.
and we're all out here like manifesting our desires,
Mm-hmm.
are we essentially competing
Oh.
for limited resources?
Ooh.
So like if you're visualizing that corner office, does that mean someone else is destined to miss out?
That is a really thought-provoking way to look at it.
Right.
So it's not just about you getting what you want,
Yeah,
but the potential impact on other people who might be vying for the same thing.
totally.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think that the concept of intent really comes into play.
Okay.
The hosts of Quantum Soul Studio make a distinction between manifesting from a place of scarcity versus abundance. And they argue that your mindset actually shapes the ethical outcome.
So are you coming from a place of like, I need this or I'm a failure,
Right.
which is very fear-based?
Very fear-based.
Or are you coming at it with the belief that there's enough success to go around?
That's the key difference. You know,
Yeah.
if you're operating from that scarcity mindset, it's easy to fall into that trap of seeing manifestation as a zero-sum game.
Right.
But if you can cultivate that abundance mindset, you're more likely to see those opportunities for everyone to win.
This is making me think about Oprah.
Okay.
Like the whole Oprah effect.
Uh-huh.
She's obviously someone who has manifested incredible success,
Absolutely.
wealth influence.
Yeah,
But then she uses her platform to give back in such huge ways.
totally.
So is that an example of ethical manifestation in action?
That's such an interesting case study, and it really raises that question.
Yeah.
Does ethical manifestation require some level of giving back?
Right.
Is it about finding that balance between pursuing your own goals and contributing to like a larger good?
Yeah, I'm curious to explore that further.
Me too.
It's like, is it enough to just have good intentions when you're manifesting?
Yeah.
Or do your actions need to reflect that as well?
That's a great question, and I think it's something that we'll be unpacking as we delve deeper into this.
Okay.
The hosts of Quantum Soul Studio use some really relatable scenarios to illustrate these dilemmas,
Good.
which I think are going to be helpful for our listeners
Perfect to grapple with as well.
because it's easy to get lost in these like abstract concepts.
Absolutely.
But I think grounding this in some real world examples will make it a lot more tangible and impactful for everyone listening.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about mindset and intent, but I think where things get really interesting is when we start looking at those like real world scenarios.
Absolutely.
You know, because it's one thing to say you believe in abundance,
Yeah.
but it's another thing to actually practice it when you're in the thick of like competition. Totally. And the Quantum Soul Studio podcast actually does a really good job of highlighting that
Okay.
with some relatable examples.
Okay.
One that really stood out to me was the scenario of wanting a promotion.
Yeah.
When you know your colleagues are also struggling or maybe been hoping for that same opportunity.
Oh, totally.
Right.
That's like such a common situation.
It is.
You want to go after what you deserve,
Mm-hmm.
but you also don't want to feel like you're stepping on anyone's toes
Right.
or benefiting from someone else's misfortune.
Right.
So how do you like navigate that ethically?
Well, that's where I think the idea of expanding your manifestation comes in.
Okay.
So instead of just visualizing yourself getting that promotion,
Yeah.
what if you also visualized your colleagues finding fulfilling roles
Okay.
that really play to their strengths?
Uh-huh.
Maybe they discover a new passion, or they land a different opportunity that's even better suited for them.
I love that.
Right.
So it's not about denying your own ambition, but it's finding a way to align it with a more collective sense of well-being.
Exactly.
Like, I want to succeed, but I also want everyone around me to thrive, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the hosts of the podcast bring up this really interesting question.
Okay.
They ask, is it girl bossing or is it gaslighting?
Ooh.
Like, are you genuinely rooting for everyone's success?
Okay.
Or are you trying to convince yourself that your win isn't impacting others negatively?
That's a good one.
Right.
It really challenges you to check your motivations
It does.
and make sure you're not just like sugarcoating things to make yourself feel better.
Exactly. And this kind of reminded me of another point they made about Oprah.
Okay.
You know, it's not just that she gives back philanthropically. It's that she actively creates opportunities for others through things like her book club and her network and her various ventures. It's not just accumulating wealth. She's using her influence to amplify other voices and help others succeed.
So it's not just charity.
Yeah.
It's empowerment. It's using your success to create that ripple effect of positive change.
I love that.
I like that too.
And speaking of ripple effects,
Okay.
they also tackled that tricky example we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
The one about potentially outbidding a single mom on your dream home.
Oh, yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, it's a tough situation
Mhm.
because on the surface, it feels like someone has to lose in order for you to get what you want.
Totally. So what do you do in that situation?
Right.
Do you just give up on your dream?
Well, the podcast hosts suggest that it's not necessarily about achieving some kind of perfect balance
Okay.
where everyone wins all the time.
Yeah.
Like, that's probably not realistic.
Right.
But instead, they emphasize the importance of taking responsibility for the ripple effects of your actions.
So if you do end up getting that dream home,
Yeah.
maybe you make a donation to a charity that supports single moms. Or you find other ways to give back to your community. It's like you're acknowledging that your win might have come at a cost for someone else, and you're trying to mitigate that.
Exactly. And they even talk about this concept of offsetting
Okay.
the potential negative impacts of your manifestations.
Oh, interesting.
So, for example, if you're manifesting a lavish vacation,
Okay.
maybe you offset your carbon footprint by donating to an environmental organization. Or if you're manifesting a raise, maybe you commit to mentoring a junior colleague or volunteering your time.
I like that.
Right.
It's about taking ownership of the full spectrum of your desires, both the positive and the potentially negative.
Yes.
And finding ways to ensure that your actions are contributing to a more positive outcome overall.
Totally.
It's like, I'm not perfect, but I'm willing to do my best to make things right.
It's about moving beyond a purely individualistic approach to manifestation
Yeah.
and recognizing that we're all interconnected. Our choices impact others, and ethical manifestation requires us to be mindful of that.
This has been like such a helpful way to think about manifestation.
Yeah.
It's not just about getting what you want.
Right.
It's about aligning your desires with your values and being willing to take responsibility for the impact of your actions.
And it brings us back to that idea of collective manifestation.
Okay.
What if instead of viewing manifestation as this competition for scarce resources, we started to see it as a tool for co-creating a more abundant and equitable world for everyone?
Now that is a powerful shift in perspective.
It is.
It really challenges the notion that manifestation is inherently selfish.
It does. And it leads us to the big question we've been kind of circling around this whole time.
Okay.
Can manifestation ever truly be considered selfless?
Ooh.
And I think that's something we need to unpack in our final part.
All right, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into the ethics of manifestation. We've covered a lot of ground, intent awareness, collective good.
Yeah.
But like the big question that's been hanging in the air this whole time.
Yeah.
Can manifestation ever truly be considered selfless?
That's a really tricky one.
Yeah.
Because I think on the surface, the very act of manifesting implies a desire,
Okay.
like a personal goal.
Uh-huh.
You're putting energy towards something that you want to see happen.
So inherently, there's like that element of self-interest in the whole concept.
Right. But here's what's interesting.
Okay.
The Quantum Soul Studio podcast argues that the line between selfish and selfless can get really blurry
Okay.
depending on how you frame your desires and, more importantly, what you do with the results.
I think you keep coming back to Oprah.
Yeah.
And it's a perfect illustration of this.
Totally.
Because yes, she's manifested incredible wealth and success for herself,
Absolutely.
but then she consistently uses that platform to empower others,
Yeah.
to give back in such meaningful ways.
So she's flipping the script
Yeah.
on traditional manifestation. She might start with a desire that primarily benefits her. But then the question becomes, how can I leverage this win to lift others up as well?
It's not about denying yourself the good stuff. It's about recognizing that abundance can be like a ripple effect.
Exactly.
Your win can create wins for others if you're intentional about it.
Totally. And they even use the example of manifesting a luxury vacation.
Okay.
Which, let's be honest,
Yeah.
can seem pretty self-indulgent on the surface.
For sure.
But what if you go a step further?
Okay.
What if you offset your carbon footprint? You support local businesses at your destination? Or you even volunteer some of your time while you're there?
Suddenly that vacation has a positive impact beyond just your own relaxation and enjoyment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It becomes about expanding that circle of benefit, not just indulging in your own desires.
I think that gets to the heart of what might be considered selfless manifestation.
I agree.
It's not so much about the specific desire itself,
Yeah.
but about the underlying motivation
Totally.
and the actions you take as a result of achieving it. Okay, so even something like manifesting a raise,
Yeah.
which could be perceived as purely self-serving,
Right.
could actually become selfless.
Yeah.
If you use that extra income to support your family, donate to charity,
Totally.
or invest in something that benefits your community.
Exactly. It's all about how you choose to use the energy
Yeah.
of that manifestation. Do you hoard it for yourself?
Yeah.
Or do you allow it to flow outward and create positive change in the world around you?
This reminds me of those pay it forward chains.
Oh, yeah.
Someone does something kind for you,
Yeah.
and then you're encouraged to do something kind for someone else, and so on.
I love
That
that.
manifestation work in a similar way.
That's such a brilliant parallel.
Yeah.
It really highlights the potential for manifestation to become this force for collective good, rather than just individual gain. Imagine if every time we manifested something for ourselves,
Yeah.
we also made a conscious effort to use that win
Okay.
to create positive change in the world around us.
That's powerful.
It is.
It completely shifts the narrative from me versus the universe. To
Yeah.
me, any universe working together to create something better.
Exactly. It's a much more expansive
Yeah.
and honestly a much more inspiring
Yeah.
way to approach manifestation.
Sure.
It aligns with the idea of true abundance,
Yeah.
where everyone has that opportunity to thrive.
Okay, so the takeaway here isn't to shy away from our desires
Right.
or feel guilty about wanting good things for ourselves. It's about recognizing the power we have to use those desires as a catalyst for positive change.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah.
It's about expanding our definition of success to include not just personal achievement,
Yeah.
but also meaningful contribution.
I love this deep dive.
Me too.
This has been so insightful.
Yeah, we really went beyond just the surface level.
Yeah.
And got to the heart of what it means to live a more intentional and fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And I think the most important takeaway for me, and hopefully for our listeners,
Yeah.
is that manifestation isn't a magic bullet.
It's not.
It's a tool
It is.
that requires conscious effort, self-awareness,
Yeah.
and a commitment to using our power for good.
Beautifully put.
So the next time you're setting your intentions,
Yeah.
remember to ask yourself, what am I manifesting? And how can I use this to create a more abundant world?
Yes.
Not just for myself, but for everyone.
Love it.
That's definitely something worth pondering.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.